Hey, what's up guys? Durian Productions here. It's my second time open box an HP laptop. It's called Zhan 66 from China and a ProBook outside China. Kind of hard to understand because Zhan 66 is kind of a gaming laptop in Chinese, while it's still a ProBook outside the chassis. You got a AMD R7 4700U, which is, well, quite top specs. Out of the box, you get a pretty cheap manual, a pretty small charger out of the box. Unfortunately, the charger is not Type-C standard. It's still the power cord type. It's 65 watt out, is 65 watt. The laptop looks pretty nice. It's a bit heavy on hand, but not too much. The back panel got a pretty narrow window for cool air to go in and for plastic stands with a center stand point. It's a plastic back panel, while a metallic front panel with a shiny HP logo as usual. Sometimes I even think whether HP and Dell are the same company because they almost use the same technology. On the one side, there is one Kingston lock, one USB-A port, one SD card reader, and a very wide window for hot air to be released. On the other side, there are plenty of ports, one headphone jack, two USB-A, one HDMI, one LAN port, one USB-C port, and a charger. You can use this USB port to charge into the laptop, no any issue. Out of the box and just open the lid, you can use one single hand to unlid the laptop. It's not quite much like the 2020 standard. The bezels at top and down are pretty wild. This will allow a bit more space for trackpad, soundbar, and a keyboard, but it will definitely add up to the overall weight, and it is quite unnecessary considering the specs. There is a good webcam at the top. You got a shutter at the webcam, but it feels very cheap. It looks like a homemade shutter on top. The keyboard got a numeric keyboard layout. The size of the keycap is on the smaller side, but it's definitely usable and not bad fitting. The bonus is the numeric keyboard. When you are typing Excel files, you will benefit from that. There is even a fingerprint sensor on the other side and a ProBook logo on the left side. Sometimes if you are too accustomed to the 14-inch laptops, you will find a bit too tight to type on this type of keyboard due to the smaller keycap size and the smaller key distances. If you just press the power button, you'll easily turn it on. Oh, sorry, I accidentally off it. Let's just press once again. Well, for the first time power up, you definitely need an hour to do setup. So let us skip all this non-interesting part and shoot straight forward to the system itself. After some preliminary setup, we power it on again. There is still some backlit on the keyboard, and now after setup, things are very fast. It's not as slow as we were experiencing. But sometimes you'll be quite frustrated because you get a first impression slow and not really trust you have a fast laptop. On the right side, you can see that I'm using a Type-C cable to charge the laptop, so this is a bonus. There are quite many Chinese bootware on the ProBook, which is hard to understand. It's almost like 2015 technology, and you get some kind of McAfee assistance on your desktop. It's really old-fashioned. Although there are some bootware, the overall system speed is very fast. It's the top-notch responsive rate. It's comparable to any 4800H models from AMD and the MacBook 14, the fastest one ever tested. The bootware is really disgusting, so be sure you remove all those HP bootware when you got the stupid ProBook. Now,
in all the good times, I find myself longing for change. And in the bad times, I feel myself. I'm off the deep end, watch as I dive in. I'll never meet the ground. Crash through the surface.
the sound quality is very impressive. Although my phone cannot pick up the sound pretty properly, the loudness is really good, and the sound quality is very good. The high pitch, the bass, are just ample. As for the screen quality, it's far from the quality of the sound. It's definitely a high color gamut 100 sRGB color screen, but it's definitely not top-notch, and the contrast ratio is quite limited. On paper, it got a AMD R7-4800U, 8-core, 8-thread. It's pretty good. It got 8GB of RAM outside the box, and strangely, this 8GB of RAM is dual channel. Not sure how it is made. The battery size is around 45 watt-hours. Currently, the charge rate is around 35 watts, so it's definitely good enough. In idle mode, the processing unit is just 40 plus Celsius degree, which is good. The RAM is awful. While 8GB, there's no room for you to upgrade, because you got two 4GB sticks on top of your laptop, and if you need to upgrade, you need to throw both together and then get a replacement. The GPU is a 448 shaders version from AMD, which is in the middle from the top 512 version and the bottom 384 version. The the display is from LG Korea. It's an 100% sRGB ratio screen. There is nothing to complain about, but definitely nothing great. The solid-state drive is the Samsung QLC PM991. This is a very fast and very good solid-state drive. It's not as fast as the PM981 series, but definitely fast enough for work. Wi-Fi is the fastest Wi-Fi 6 from Intel. This is very impressive and will give you stable Wi-Fi connection. This laptop is kind of more suitable for overall daily and home office use. Luckily, we can squeeze all the benchmarks in one screen. The benchmarks are definitely not high, but it's pretty decent. The CPU got 1000 CB and single core 180 approximately, which is definitely good enough for, or much good enough for daily use. The BMD raw test also reveals the pretty unoptimized GPU, but a pretty powerful CPU. The speed of the RAM is on the low side, and you get quite some latency. Considering it's an AMD platform, it's kind of acceptable. The solid-state drive PM991 is quite fast, approximately 2K read speed and 1K plus write speed. The 4K is quite fast, so there's nothing to complain about, and everyday responsive rate is just fast. As for the stability test, in the idle mode without anything running, the temperature is just 30 plus Celsius degree with aircon turned on. After running the stability test, the CPU is now clocked to 2.5 GHz and then goes very high to 3.7 GHz. After some time, it stabilized at 3.3 GHz with a power envelope at 25 watts. This is a pretty decent balance between the power and the speed. After 10 minutes of stability test, the CPU frequency dropped back to 2.7 GHz and the total CPU power envelope limited to 15 watts. It's not bad. It can give 8 cores, 2.7 GHz, and it's definitely more than enough for daily work in some productivity mode. We try to limit it to power saving mode with just a 12 watt power envelope, and the frequency is still 2.4 GHz. Considering such a low power envelope, we are expecting even some tablets using these 8-core CPUs. Opening the firmware, without CPU instability test, the GPU can consume approximately 17 watt battery, and the frequency is around 1.6 GHz at its top frequency. Adding CPU with GPU together, the CPU frequency started from 2.7, 2.8 GHz, and GPU frequency around 8 to 900 MHz. The overall performance is very decent and is powerful enough for just gaming. After 7 minutes of CPU and GPU co-stability test, the frequency of CPU dropped to 1.7 GHz and GPU back to 0.4 MHz. Apparently, the Ryzen 4000 is not optimized to run at 15 watt envelope with both CPU and GPU stressed. However, the temperature is still good. So, if you just want to have a bit more performance, probably you will need a model that can run at 25 watt or higher power envelope. This one is definitely good enough if you're just using either party but not both. Overall, not talking about performance, these laptops are pretty nice for basic home and office use. It's not heavy. You got quite some expandability internals and outside as ports and connectivity. And everything will be quite convenient, and especially when you are an HP familiarized user.